Welcome to another episode of You Had Me at Cheese, where my girlfriend, Venus, and myself, Eclipse, explore the many different aspects of the human experience. We are here with our selection of cheeses, and Venus has a glass of wine ready, so feel free to bring your favorite snack and join the party. Hey listener, thank you for joining us. With me today is my friend Luna, who is here to talk about boundaries, their place, or lack thereof in certain cultures, what led her to realize that she could benefit from setting a few, the challenges of actually doing so, and where she gets her boundary setting inspiration from. If you or anyone you know has ever struggled to set boundaries, this is the episode for you. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey Luna.
Hi Eclipse.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. I had an early start, but it's been a good day.
I'm very excited about today's conversation.
I'm very nervous.
Tell me why.
Well, I've never recorded a podcast before, and also the topic that we're diving into, I don't think I've really discussed it in this way before. It's been more a conversation in my own head or fleeting conversations with friends.
Yeah.
But I've never really reflected on it this deeply and then articulated it.
Well, I'm excited to dive deep into it with you.
Me too.
How long have you been having this internal discussion with yourself?
I would say I've been an overthinker my whole life. Ever since I can remember, I've just thought about things that a lot of people would probably tell me are not worth my time thinking about because they're not real. But in terms of when it became a more intentional practice, it would be with my yoga teacher training.
And when did you start yoga training?
Oh, I want to say 3-4 years ago.
When you reflect back on it, do you think the things that you were thinking about were actually not real? Or was there something behind it?
For me, it felt real, but I was also aware that because I didn't have anyone around me who thought in that way and shared that that was their internal experience, there was also a part of me that grew to take on their voices and tell me that it was kind of being over dramatic maybe, or I was getting caught up in fantasies, that I needed to be grounded in the real world and actually go out and live like everyone else, and this was a waste of my time. So there was a lot of conflicting stories that started to come up the older I got.
It's interesting to see how people who live life in a different way to us sometimes feel the need to adjust the way we live our life to what they are doing or what they are experiencing. And I'm not quite sure why. Was it really impactful on other people that you were a deep thinker?
I asked a lot of questions that a lot of people around me didn't have the answers for. And I wasn't expecting a black and white answer. I think I just wanted someone to explore it with me. But unfortunately for young Luna, there wasn't anyone who had the time, or maybe their brain just didn't think of the world or see it in that way. So they found me either a bit eclectic and, oh, that's an interesting person, or more often than not, it was a bit, oh, there's a bit something wrong with her, or, there was something about me that just didn't quite fit into their world, and that made them uncomfortable.
Yeah, it can be quite confronting when somebody else is asking you questions you don't know the answer to.
Absolutely.
To start with, it can also be confronting when somebody else is doing things differently in a way that you never thought about, a way that you never thought about as an option. And all of a sudden it's in front of you, and that can be uncomfortable and a little bit of, maybe put this away because I don't want to know that I could do things differently. So when we're talking about boundaries and self-care, would you say that your conversation with yourself about it started about 3 years ago when you started with your yoga teaching training, or was that earlier?
No, I would say definitely with the yoga teacher training. In my culture, boundaries, I don't even know if there's a word for it.
Really?
Yes, in the language itself. I'm sure because where I was originally born, the field of psychology is, they say, a few decades behind other more Western countries. So I'm sure as it develops, they're creating vocabulary for it. But in the common vernacular, I don't think there is a word for boundaries. And more importantly, people don't talk about it.
Yeah. And so if there's no word for it and you're not talking about it, can it actually exist?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I just wonder, when we talk about Fire Nation, the country that you came from before you moved to Neverland, what are people like in terms of lack of boundaries? What is life like? What does it look like?
Well, Fire Nation, and I don't want to speak for everyone because I feel my family, in terms of my mum's family and my dad's family, they are a particular expression of that culture. So I don't know how other families are like. I suppose my mum's family is the culture I think of when I think of Fire Nation, because they a little bit extreme on the scale of being quite conservative. They care very much how people think of them. You don't do things differently because different is weird. It's not a good thing. And there's a lot of rules. And Fire Nation is all about hierarchy. So when it comes to boundaries, you don't have them because anyone with more power than you, for whatever reason, it could be age, it could be gender, it could be the kind of career or social status that they have, they get to determine what your boundaries are.
Can you give me an example of a situation where you would have wanted there to be a boundary, but somebody who's higher on the hierarchy decided otherwise?
I'll try and give 2 examples. So one is a work example. I was working in Fire Nation, and this was I think my second year of the job, and we were going through so many different editors. And this person, she was an interesting character, even for a Fire Nation person, quite young. I think she was maybe 15 years older than me at the time.
How old were you at the time?
I was in my early 20s, so just after I graduated university. I would say maybe 22, 23 at the time. And I can't remember if it happened in the bathroom, because we're both female, or it happened inside our little cubicle. We were given a little cubicle to use as an office. There was 3 of us in there, 3 desks. I remember she said something to me, like a passing comment, and then as she walked past, she gave my bottom a little slap.
Excuse me?
Yeah. She, you know how like mums give like their toddlers like little pats on their bum? And she did that to me as she was walking past. And I remember standing there going, I have no idea what just happened. And it's weird. Like I imagine in bigger companies, like really well-known global corporate companies that do operate out of Fire Nation, like that would be a no-no because you have HR and all these processes. And we weren't some small like dinky company, but there's a weird like almost it's your work environment and it's professional, but because this person is older than me, because they're my editor, I'm this young, fresh person coming in. I don't quite know what I'm doing. There's an odd mesh of like almost like an older sister or an aunt vibe that comes in, but I didn't invite that. So she established that relationship for me.
Yeah. And for you, can you actually push back? Is that an option?
There probably are people who do push back. I felt at the time, it didn't even occur to me actually at the time, because just the power dynamic felt massive. The disparity in power felt massive. I didn't even know how to start to have that conversation. And I was, and I still am, quite conflict avoidant.
Yeah.
So after that happened, I kind of had to go through a process of, okay, so this is how this relationship works.
To be honest, it's a weird position to be in, to even be needing to have this conversation. Like, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And personally, I find that when it comes to things that for us seem like common sense, it's really hard to articulate them because you're like, this should just be obvious. I don't even know how to present this to you in a way that is not rude or blunt or offensive because it should be so clear. What did you end up doing?
I end up leaving, really.
You're like so conflict avoidant that I will just go out the door and I am done.
Yeah, I mean, I put up for a few months more. I don't think she did that particular behavior again, but it presented itself another way. So I would get calls on the weekend and she would talk about her personal life just out of the blue. Just a random call one day on a Saturday morning, and it starts off about work, but then it eventually talks about her and what she's doing and whether she's going to go to the dry cleaners today. And I'm at the other end of the phone call thinking, what parallel universe am I in right now?
Like, is this common?
No, I feel like she was quite a unique example. And I am also, I guess, quite an extreme example of being very conflict avoidant, not knowing how to articulate those boundaries. But it's not unusual. For example, I remember being in a cab, and cabs are used quite widely in Fire Nation. And I was off to some event that I had to go to. And the cab driver was a man in his late 50s, early 60s. And he just struck up a conversation with me. I think the first thing he asked, once he asked, like, oh, where are you going? What do you do? As you do. And then he was like, oh, so are you married?
Oh my God.
And I was like, no. And then he was like, well, why not? Are you looking to get married? How old are you? Shouldn't you get married?
Oh my God, sorry. I'm like shrieking internally because I actually had a very similar conversation elsewhere in the world. And the man, like probably, around 50s, and he was my shuttle driver as well. And he was like mortified that I'm in my 30s and I'm not married and all of those things. And I was just refraining from telling him that actually I'm in a relationship with a trans woman because I think we would have had a car accident right there and then. I don't think he would have understood that. But it's beyond me. Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think it's also quite a characteristic of Fire Nation that, again, I guess it's another presentation of lack of boundaries. You know, in certain cultures, there are questions you do not ask strangers or people you don't know very well. Fire Nation, I think, once you reach a certain age or you feel like you stand slightly higher up in a hierarchy than someone, you can kind of do whatever you like.
Do you feel like they see it as entitlement?
I don't think they know what the word entitlement means. Maybe it's so baked into the culture that there is no word for it because it's so ubiquitous and it's such a normal part of life. I would have said that he probably asked out of the best intentions. He was concerned for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the shuttle driver that I had the pleasure of interacting with probably thought exactly the same, that he was saving me from this meaningless life of no children. That's actually what he thought, like that women, you know, the best thing in our life is to have kids.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't have kids, so clearly my life is meaningless, and he's just trying to put me on the right path. You know, very thoughtful of him.
Yes, well, absolutely. I had an uncle tell me one time that as a woman, my greatest joy in life is going to be when I have children.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, I actually got really angry at that, but I didn't say anything again because he's my uncle and he stands in a certain hierarchy in the family and he's a man and I'm a young woman. But to be told by a man that my greatest purpose and joy in life is to reproduce was very much a what the fuck moment.
Do you wish you would have said something?
Yes, there is a big part of me that wishes I stood up for myself and I didn't really care what the consequence of that was. Or maybe I had the wisdom to express that in a way that didn't escalate into something more. But I always do remember the time that I did stand up for myself with my grandfather once. He is a very interesting character and he pushes all my buttons. And
is he still alive?
He is, very much is.
Still pushing all your buttons.
Pushing everyone's buttons. It's quite unfortunate because it pushes people away. And yet, I think, again, the reason he does it is out of the best of intentions. It's just coming from not the wrong place, but perhaps the wrong delivery, the wrong reasons. And so I remember I pushed back once and I was feeling quite activated. So probably wasn't the right place to push back, but I did disagree with him and I articulated why I felt what he was saying wasn't right for me. And actually, this is how I think of life and this is what is important to me. And I got another 2-hour lecture and I got told off for it. So there's a sense of helplessness and hopelessness.
Like nothing you can say or do actually matters or changes the situation.
Yeah.
Like if anything, he doubled down on it. I don't know if to say doubled down because a 2-hour lecture is like way more than doubling down. It's like quadrupling down at this point.
It's a punishment, really. That's what it felt like. And so there was very much a sense of, I feel powerless. I don't know how to get through this person that we see life so differently.
Do you feel like there's a lack of curiosity from his side?
The interesting part about him in particular is that he grew up during, I guess, what we could call like a civil war period. So his early years were very traumatic, chaotic, and his personal background was very poor and hard, and he made something of himself. So for someone who grew up in that environment, he displays a lot of openness about certain things. So he's a big proponent of women making successful careers and that women can do anything a man can do in that field. And yet and I guess it's unavoidable because of the age that he is, there's still a lot of rigidity and rules. I think it's a Fire Nation characteristic that there is safety in rules, and that's why we keep to them. It makes us predictable to each other. And it honestly felt like speaking to an alien, and I'm sure he felt like I was an alien too.
True. Yeah. It just feels like you're not speaking the same language. So basically, this has been happening your entire life. You've always had these experiences, and I guess sometimes you would try and push back, but it wasn't really well received.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much.
At what point in your life did you realize that you need to create stronger boundaries?
I think the yoga teacher training, the really beautiful teachers I had who exemplified that for me. I'd never seen it in my life. So, and I think I didn't even hear about the word boundaries until then. People probably did practice it around me, but no one pointed it out. And for someone who has never seen it in their personal life and who's never really grown up with this idea, I think it is important that you have to spell it out for people. It's not just...
How would you know?
Yeah, exactly. You don't know. You just realize, wow, that person kind of lives the life they want. I don't know how they do it, but they seem to like not have the problems I have, which is always people pleasing and then having to compromise on things I don't want to compromise on, putting up with shitty behavior from people that I don't want in my life. And so I just start avoiding them. And so you see that and you think, wow, their life is so much easier than mine. But you don't take it a step further and wonder, well, what are they doing different to me? And so having my yoga teachers talk about it explicitly, but also practice it with us.
Tell me a little more about that. What did they say about it and how did they practice boundary setting with you?
I think the talk about boundaries wasn't core to the training itself, but it came up because in any group of people, when you bring a whole bunch of people together, I think naturally you have to start practicing boundaries or else someone is going to be miserable in that group. And there's
so important.
Yeah. There's always one person that kind of rubs people the wrong way.
Oh my God. Don't get me started.
And so I could see it happening naturally, organically in the group. One person who maybe is quite a dominant personality, so they're quite forceful, and you see, and I'm sure that they're keeping an eye because they're facilitators. They want to create a safe space. And so I could see them gently stepping in and redirecting conversations or redirecting energy. being firm in terms of maybe actually stopping people at a certain point, but it always came from a place of such compassion. And no one really seemed to be offended by it, which is what surprised me.
Do you think it's about the delivery from the facilitators, or was it about the people in the workshop?
I'm sure it was a lot of factors. The fact that people who come to yoga teacher trainings display certain characteristics, I suppose, perhaps more open to receiving feedback. But then it wasn't the case with everyone. There was certainly people in there who really struggled and took out their own internal pain on others around them, probably without realizing. So delivery, yes, but there's almost a different energy. I can't quite put my finger on it. Because I imagine if I try to word for word take that formula and apply it myself, I don't think it would land all the time in the way that it landed for them.
True, but also you're probably talking about people who are from a completely different background.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing I learned from them was they didn't take into consideration their boundary setting by calculating how it was going to be received. For them, when they delivered it, it was coming out of a place of compassion. They weren't trying to put people in their place.
Because you've been pushed a lot throughout your life, do you think it's harder for you to get to this place of compassion?
I think I struggle with what happens with me when I set that boundary. When I think of saying to someone, it's someone close to you, right? Like a family or a friend or a lover. And you think, oh, I don't quite like that. I want to say something about it because it's bothering me. And then there's the normal fears, the fear of, oh, what if they take it the wrong way? A really weird but common fear with me is I feel like this 5-year-old Luna who's really, really scared of someone shouting at me in response to what I say, and not knowing if someone starts shouting at me and getting angry in that way, I don't know what to do. And I completely shut down. And so then my delivery becomes conditional upon wanting a certain response from that person. And I think that makes it really hard to set boundaries. Trying to control someone else's response to what I'm wanting to articulate and the change that I'm requesting. And so then my delivery becomes very vague or weak, or then I start to cater to them, and then I kind of lose sight of like, actually, what am I trying to say here? Who is this for?
It was for you.
Yeah, it was for me. And then I'm like, well, let me accommodate you.
I can relate to that. I don't know if I would say that I'm conflict avoidant, because I normally kind of look at conflict and I think this should be resolved. And so I am more the person to not create the conflict, but try and address it. But I do recognize what you're saying about I want a certain response. And so I'm really trying to articulate the things that I say and like deliver them in a very specific way. And by the end of the day, the other person is going to react however they're going to react. Not saying that there's no meaning to me thinking about how to deliver the message, but it's impossible to control the end result.
And I think that's what I really admire about you, Eclipse, is I've been witness to this in small ways when you've shared instances of you setting boundaries. And personally, the way I see the way you set boundaries is there is a really beautiful balance, like my yoga teachers, a beautiful balance between, yes, you are really being compassionate to this person, why they might be behaving in this way, what they're going through, and the way that you need to communicate with them in order to get this across. So that is happening, and I think that's the compassion part. But you also accept that this needs to be addressed.
Yep.
And you go and do it. And for me, it seems like you're not afraid of what the other person comes back with.
I think there's a point here of be afraid and do it anyway. Because a lot of times I am afraid. And I think much like you, when I don't know how the other person is going to react, it can really terrify me. Especially if there might be explosive reaction involved. That's really challenging for me. I think it's really kind what you were saying, and I do try to address things and keep compassion, etc. But it's really not easy.
No, but you do it anyway.
I do it anyway.
That's the difference, because I think I get to, in my head, I get to that point of, okay, this needs to be addressed. This can't keep going. But I'm really afraid that this person might do this. And sometimes the fear is really irrational. Like they might never have indicated they have an explosive element, but the fear is there. And that, for me, I think that's where I stop. I go, well, I'm afraid. So I'm going to find other ways to deal with this.
I think I've seen you actually set boundaries, actually address things. And so I think there's no 100%, but I think you're doing the work. And it's never going to be 100% because sometimes we just look at things and say, not a hill I'm willing to die on. So there will always be this wiggle room of, I want this to change. Do I want it to change enough?
And it's interesting to hear, because I don't think I've ever heard you say that there were moments that you were terrified of the other person's response, because on the outside, you seem so self-assured, so in control, and very much, you're not taking on anyone's energy and you're okay with whatever happens. And so your internal experience, to hear that, it makes me realize that I think of you and I think, wow, that person's got it sorted. Like they know.
So sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it must be so easy for them is the fallacy I think I fall into. Like, because you make it seem so easy, and yet there's this internal struggle for you too, it sounds like.
100% there is. And I think also, even if I do the work and I set the boundary and I keep compassion, but I also keep clear what it is that I want and do not want or am not willing to accept, some of these people who I've set a boundary with, their voices follow me for months or sometimes years. I may not let it define what it is that I'm going to do, but it does have an impact and it is something that I need to walk through. So I think for anyone who finds setting boundaries hard and looks at somebody else and thinks it's easy, for the most part, it's not. You've mentioned that one of the things that scare you the most is whether somebody would yell at you. Are there any other big obstacles when it comes to you setting boundaries?
Oh, absolutely. And this is something I realized, I think, 2 days ago on a drive on the motorway. And it's my intense and irrational fear of someone labeling me as something. And when I actually sit down and think about it, I'm like, that's the stupidest thing, because just because someone calls me a bitch, just because someone says, oh, that girl, she's selfish, because someone characterizes me in some way, I know that doesn't mean, oh, that label's now stuck on me, it's tattooed on me forever. The whole world is now going to see on my forehead, selfish bitch. And yet it's such a instant, visceral, animal response. And it just fires up every stress fear response in me.
You might remember that it's not true, and yet it's such a painful feeling to know that somebody doesn't see you for who you are. It doesn't even matter that it's not tattooed on you, almost. It's just the fact that there's somebody out there, potentially very close to you, who sees you as a completely different person to who you are, who you want to be. Different people experience life in a different way, but I think for you and I, that is really painful. We so deeply want to connect, and we so deeply want people to see us, truly see us, that when somebody puts a label on us that we don't believe is true, it just runs through your body in a really painful way, and it almost gets everywhere. I can't explain it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny because it could be someone that's not even that close to you. It could be a complete stranger. Maybe on the motorway, someone cuts you off and throws you, flips a bird at you. And then the whole day, that's all I think about. Oh, that person thought I made a mistake. That person thinks I'm dumb, or that person thinks I'm a bad driver. And it just sits with me. This small, really inconsequential event sits with me for the whole day, because now I feel like now I have to show everyone that I'm not. Because do you feel like when you have those moments that you have to extra kind of validate and prove that you're not?
I don't know if I feel like I have to prove that I'm not. I think that I just let it hurt.
Mm.
For example, there was a friend of mine who, about 8 months or so into my relationship with Venus, was lashing out at me saying that since Venus and I got together, I haven't been there for her and I've been a bad friend and I've been neglecting friendships and stuff like that. And that really hurt.
Mm.
Even though I knew it's not true, it was still painful that somebody who was my friend for 8 or 9 years at that point viewed me in such a way. I didn't feel the need to go out of my way to do good things to prove that I'm a good friend, because I feel like I am doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends either see it or they don't. And if what I can give to somebody is not enough, then maybe the friendship is just not right for us, which is, to me, is the case with this person.
Mm. So when that friend expressed that to you, was there a moment where you had to go, was I a bad friend? Like, did that thought go through you?
100%. There was a moment that I was like, was I really so detached? Was I really neglectful? And at first, my reaction was to apologize and to say that I'm sorry that I didn't meet her needs, and I would love to know what it is that she was missing. So, maybe in the future we can have a better friendship, etc. That was before she actually blamed it on my relationship with Venus.
Mm.
At first, she just said that I wasn't there for her when she needed me.
Mm.
But then she both doubled down on me not being there, did not answer the question as to what she needed, and also said that my relationship with Venus was the reason, which was not true at all. In fact, there was so much going on during that time that she really shouldn't be throwing stones from glass houses, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because she didn't care for me the way that she expected me to care for her. And so, yes, my first reaction was, I'm really sorry that I made you feel like you're not important. You are important to me, and I do want to care for you as a part of our friendship. But as she doubled down on it, I was like, no. You don't get to just tell me that I'm a bad friend and blame the one thing in my life that is actually good and not take accountability for your part in things. You don't get to do all that.
And I think that's what I really admire about you, and I learn so much and feel inspired by you, is that the way you responded first was so compassionate. There was a moment where you're like, oh shit, was I a bad friend?
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like, that kind of almost like gaslighting moment where you're like, what is the reality here? I'm not sure now. And then you immediately identify, because for you, the priority is the relationship. So you honed in on that, the crux of the issue, which is like, well, what can we change going forward?
Yep.
And yet for your friend, it sounded like her focus wasn't about the relationship. It wasn't about expressing, well, actually what I need more of. It was almost like a need for a scapegoat for whatever might have been going on in her life at the time.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm not willing to just be a scapegoat because somebody else is not willing to look in the mirror and ask themselves that hard question of, why am I lonely? Why do I not have the relationships I want? But yeah, it's hard. A lot of people have a different reality to you. And so as you're communicating with them, even before you set a boundary sometimes, you need to figure out what the reality is, if you can both agree on it. Because let's say you would have confronted this lady who walked with you, right? And you would have come to her and said, look, it's inappropriate that you are giving me a smack on the bum. And she would tell you, I don't see why.
I was just being friendly.
Yeah.
I just think we're that close. Yeah.
And then what do you do?
Yeah. From having observed you and the way you navigate this, and I don't have a lot of people who do this very well, but the very few people that I can observe myself and see how they do it, there seem to be a couple of steps to it, which is, like you said, first you have to be really grounded in, well, actually, is there something that I need to take responsibility for? Is there there's a reality check that needs to happen first, because you can't really go set a boundary if you're not sure what's real and what isn't. And then the second step is you articulate it, but it's not about telling people what to do. It's not about enforcing what you want on their life. Because I think when you set a boundary, you also have to accept that the other person might just not listen to you.
Correct. A boundary is more about what you're willing to accept rather than the other person can or cannot do. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
The question is, are you going to accept it?
And then I think for me, I mean, all steps of those are very confusing and hard for me. But probably the crux that really hits me is sitting with the discomfort. Like you said, all the thoughts that come up of like, oh, am I a bad friend? Am I a bad person? They're saying that I'm these things. Sitting with that and being able to sit with it, that discomfort, that terror, that fear. And then also the uncertainty of, okay, with that editor, maybe I said, oh, I find that behavior really inappropriate. I don't really like being touched in that way. And then I don't know how she'll react, right? So I can't prepare a response. So I have to also accept as I go into this process that I need to trust that I can also respond in the way that I need to in the moment.
Yeah.
Because I can't script this.
No, you can't. And it's almost like doing improv, right?
Which is terrifying.
I know. And some people are really good at it. But it's hard.
It is.
Yeah. Improv is hard, right? But actually, it's a part of life. And I think, especially with social media becoming a big thing and us being used to just writing things and messaging and being able to edit and stuff like that, it almost makes our day-to-day communication a lot harder.
1000%.
Because we're just not used to it. My tip, and this is something that I just find really, really crucial in my life, especially in times where I am going through an episode where somebody is telling me I'm something I'm not, right? I know we're talking about boundaries, but actually many times when you set a boundary, people will come out and go, oh, this makes you XYZ, right? You are potentially, or quite likely, are going to have backlash.
Absolutely. There's pushback.
Yeah. And so what I think is really, really crucial and very important is to have people around you who ground you, who remind you who you truly are. I've gone through situations where my living environment was really, really uncomfortable, and I was being told that I'm all these horrible things. And I did put boundaries in place, really strong boundaries, but it was really, really tough. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that without the people who supported me. I've been very appreciative of them ever since. And this, even though it's been a while, it always comes up. I think we almost expect people to be able to set boundaries as if it's just saying, oh, I would like some Coke, please.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's just it's like a sentence that you just need to say. And then there you go,
So
you've set your
easy.
boundary. Yeah.
And that's it. The boundary is set, but it doesn't work that way. I can tell you that my sister and myself have set many boundaries with our mother. And it's just with our mother, it's up to us. She's not going to respect the boundary.
Well, what do you do, though? What do you do when they consistently refuse?
Nobody is entitled to a spot in your life. Nobody. Not even my mother. I have blocked my mom on WhatsApp, which is our way of communication, for a year.
Wow.
In the past. I've clarified a boundary. She pushed it again. I explained what's going to happen, and then I did it.
Wow.
It's not fun. My mom is not well. So every time I set a boundary with her, I wonder, is this the last time that I'm going to talk to her? It's really, really tough. And I know that for my sister, it's difficult as well because they live a lot closer. But that's the thing. Boundaries are not about what you're allowing the other person to do. It's about what you will accept. She can keep doing whatever she wants. Like I say, don't cross this line. She can keep crossing it. But if she does, I will put a line that she cannot cross. All right? I will block her. And then what is she going to do? Come to Neverland? She hasn't flown in decades.
and after you place those boundaries, and they're not forever because you have been in touch with her again, how have you felt that changed your relationship?
It's a good question. My relationship with my mom is a complex one. I think I'm always looking for a way to change it into something that would be sustainable, but I don't even know if it's possible. So right now, she sends me little voice memos and weird gifs and whatnot on WhatsApp, but we haven't spoken in a month. I guess what I have to say is that there isn't always a way to create the relationship that you want. And it's still up to us to decide what are we willing to accept, what is the best way forward out of these not so great options.
Yeah. Which seems to be all of life.
Yeah.
Because I've had this conversation with my mum, and with her relationship with her dad and her sisters too is very much like yours with your mum, where boundaries are not only part of their reality. Even if I were to explain this is how it works, and this is what you get from it, and this is how your life would be better for it, they would be like, we can't do that. You can't do that to a parent. You can't do that to your child. You can't do that to family.
Have you asked why?
I have. It's really hard to get a specific and clear answer, because I think for them it is such a barrier that, the idea of cutting a parent off from your life is tantamount to betraying your country.
I think also there are some cultures where individualism is the ideology, and some cultures where collectivism is. And I think what collectivism is probably where you're going to find people say you can't remove a parent or a sibling or any family member from your life because you're related to them by blood. While in other countries it might be more acceptable, but I think it's still frowned upon almost no matter where you go. So I wonder whether, would you say Fire Nation is more collectivism?
Absolutely. And because the Western influence is global, it has changed the culture. But speaking for my own family is everything. You die for your family. Blood is everything. Like, family is only blood. There is no other way to be family.
And that makes setting boundaries 10 times worse.
Absolutely. Because if I were to explain to my mum, look, your dad is really affecting your mental health, because he's quite old, he's not very well, and aspects of his personality that weren't really nice to be around are magnified at the moment because life feels hard. He's very scared. My grandmother is at end of life, and she's been his whole world. And there's a lot of fear that is presenting itself through these quite aggressive behaviors on other people. And we've talked about boundaries that she can set. We've talked about not taking on his energy, not taking on his reality, and getting confused about what's going on for her. And yet she can't even begin to visualize what that looks like. And then I think guilt and shame is a massive part of Fire Nation culture.
Yeah. And I think guilt and shame about setting boundaries might just be very common in general. It might be amplified with Fire Nation culture, but I think it's quite common. I don't know if I've met many people who set boundaries without feeling any type of shame or guilt sometime.
That's actually really encouraging to hear. Because again, from the outside, it looks like they're like, you know what? I've set my boundary. I'm going to go have my matcha now.
True. I'm not ruling out that there might be people who set boundaries right, left, and center and go, I don't fucking care. Completely possible. And kudos. But for the most part, we are all complex beings. So tell me, how do you handle feelings of guilt or fear when saying no to people?
Shit. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, 9 times out of 10, I probably find other ways to deal with it, if not even like passive aggressive ways to deal with it. But the times that I am proud of myself for setting a boundary and then dealing with the repercussions internally, or even like before I have that conversation, I'm thinking, oh shit, like, oh, should I not? I haven't found a way. Honestly, it's sleepless nights. It's nights spent crying. It's journaling really angrily and frustrated. Like the whole world seems to kind of fall apart with a small thing. Maybe on 1 or 2 occasions, I was pleasantly surprised, like, oh, okay, I don't really have to be anything to be afraid of. They took that on really well. And I feel closer to that person for it because that gave them an opportunity for them to also express, well, actually, now that you brought that up, what do you think about this? And a boundary they might have been kind of mulling over for a while, but they didn't feel like they could bring it up with me. But that's a rare occurrence, I would have to say.
Do you think there's something here about the people that you keep around you?
I think despite how often and frequently we talk about boundaries nowadays, I feel that not enough people do it and do it in a way that is really constructive and relationship building. And therefore, people have never been on the receiving end of it. A lot of the time, and I count myself as one of those people too, because it's only in my friendships now that I've cultivated in the last 2-3 years that I've found people who are very self-aware and they spend a lot of energy on self-development and practicing these kind of things in their lives that make their lives so much better and enriching. And so because I haven't been on the receiving end of it that often, the immediate response to any boundary setting is that, oh, this is a threat. They are criticizing me. They think there's something bad about me. There's something wrong about me. And that's just your instant gut response. And then I have to take time to either in the moment or maybe I take time away from that person to allow the emotion to pass through. I've had a friend who really recommended, connecting somatically, like where am I feeling this like ugly emotion right now? What does it feel like? Who is reacting in this moment right now? Is it 37-year-old Luna or is it 7-year-old Luna who got told off for doing something she didn't realize was a bad thing? And often I do need that time to be like, whoa, calm down. Let the adrenaline, the cortisol, the blood pressure come down. And then once the emotional detachment is there, then I can be like, oh, well, what were they actually saying? How did I actually turn up? And is that a fair observation and request? And often it is. And it's something I need to take on. And it's not about me. That's something I need to keep reminding myself is like, they're not saying that I'm a bad person. I need to change. It's like the way maybe I express myself or turn up or the way I show care. That's a big thing, right? The way we show care isn't always the way people need us to show care.
100%.
And you have to be like, if I really care about this person, I have to learn how they need me to show up.
Correct.
And for some reason, I take it really offensively.
I think it's really hard to separate sometimes when somebody is setting boundaries with us or voices requests. I think what you described really beautifully is that sometimes we need to take this time away and care for our inner child before we can really process the request. And I think a lot of people just go into reactive mode. And understandably so, because those things touch really deep emotions. And as you said, you're 37, but you're reacting from a 7-year-old place. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that you're like, calm down. What is happening? What's the reality? What is actually requested? Is it actually about me? Have I done something wrong? And even if you've done something wrong, the thing is, this is a request moving forward as well. But a lot of times those things have nothing to do with us. I feel like as humans, many of us, in many instances, take things really personally, when it's really not about that at all. So that makes a lot of sense when you say, oh, I need to go through this process. But then I go back. It's practice. Maybe with time, you'll be able to do things kind of internally as the request is being brought up. But right now, as you said, you haven't been exposed to many situations where people have done this and this is not how you grew up. So it's quite a big thing to learn. I almost wish, no, I don't almost, I wish we taught it in schools.
Oh, yeah. That and how to deal with your taxes.
100%. Yes. Yes. And also cooking.
Absolutely. So I was casually seeing this guy for a year. It was a beautiful connection, very, very friendship related, but also physical. And he had, I can't remember the name of it, but it's apparently quite a common condition out there. But it's when people, like, they have a phobic response to the sound of someone chewing.
Misophonia.
Yes. Yeah. And he's the first person I've ever met in my life who had that. And he shared it with me when we were sharing like a bag of chips. Yeah. And I didn't even realize I was chewing loud. It hasn't come up in my family, so I don't even realize. And he very kindly and gently said, well, actually, I have this. This is what it means. And would it be okay? I can't remember what he said, but he did it really kindly. I was like, oh, okay. I had no idea this thing existed. Sure. So it's just eating with your mouth closed, which is generally good etiquette. And I would forget. So he would often make us dinner and we're having noodles. So like in Fire Nation culture, we slurp our noodles. And I didn't even realize that was a cultural thing I took on because I moved to Neverland when I was 5. And I always thought of myself as more Neverland than Fire Nation because this is where I grew up. English is my preferred language. I speak it much better than I do the language of Fire Nation. And yet you pick up on these small cultural things. And it was turning up with this person who really struggled with this.
Poor guy.
I know. And every time he would very kindly point out, oh, it's the same with tea. I didn't realize I slurped tea until I met him. And I was like, oh, I do this thing. And so it's such an unthinking habit that I had to be reminded of. And I knew it was not about me. He wasn't saying like, oh, you're disgusting.
Yep.
Or what is wrong with you? Or if you keep doing this, I'm never going to see you again. It wasn't about that. It was about in that moment that is really affecting me. Would it be okay if you change your behavior slightly? For which I absolutely was happy to. But there was every single time, and it reduced over time. But the first few times, man, like it was like a punch to the gut to hear someone say like, oh, is it okay if you don't slip your noodles? Like, oh, you're slurping your tea. And I don't know why, but I took it as a rejection of me and as a judgment of me as a person. Like my value really took a hit. And that just, it's so bizarre.
I think it's a very common experience though. I actually had an experience with a couple of roommates in the past where in a house share, Venus and I own most of the things and we're happy to share a lot. And one of the things that we share is the laundry basket, a plastic one that personally I would only use for clean clothes. Don't care if they are dry or wet, but only clean clothes. For dirty clothes, I use a hamper. And at some point I realized that one of my roommates was using the plastic basket for their dirty clothes. And so we brought it up. Just as a gentle request that we noticed this, and is it okay moving forward that we only use it for clean clothes? And the response we got was a bit odd to us. They basically said it was an unusable request. I'm not sure if they meant to say unreasonable, but basically because they couldn't use it for both dirty and clean, they decided to not use it at all.
Pretty extreme.
To me, I would say yes, that's pretty extreme. I did not tell you not to use it. I did not tell you I was angry at you. I wasn't. I did not tell you there was anything wrong with you doing that with your own stuff. I simply wanted moving forward to only use it for clean clothes. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, it's like a really strong gut reaction. And I think it's up to us as individuals to work on that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I think I carried an expectation of the more I spend time with this person and the closer we get, the less it would hurt. But the reality was that it still stung. And maybe it was me carrying that expectation that kind of set me up for failure each time. If I accepted that, okay, going forward, when I receive feedback for the very, like, that first millisecond, it's going to sting. But that sting's going to go away. And if I focused on that, maybe I could have moved forward a bit better. But I do remember when it hit me out of nowhere, like we were cuddling, it was so lovely. And then that hits me out of nowhere. Like he makes that request. And then I'm like, oh, I feel rejected. And then my body starts to stiffen up. And it takes me like 10 minutes to like process that, walk through that, relax. It's okay. It was just feedback.
Was there anything that you needed from him in order to process it better?
The thing is, he gave me everything I needed. I think the first few times I didn't even see it because I was so stuck in my own pain in that moment. Because after he would make the request, it wasn't like he pulled away. He offered plenty of reassurance. So if we're cuddling and I'm munching on my chips and being very loud, he would remind me gently and I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I remember to munch on it with my mouth closed and be quiet. And he's still cuddling me. He's still like snuggling. Nothing about his behavior has changed. But there is that kind of moment where you become very disconnected from the world for a moment because you're so like in this. And when you're in that space of hurt and pain, nothing quite reaches you, even if people say all the right words and they say, hey, I love you.
That's true.
I'm still here for you. So I think it's on us to do that because when you're in that internal space, the only person that can get through to you is another internal voice.
I agree. There's just a lot of work that nobody else can do for us.
Oh, absolutely. Even if it's things like in that moment, even labeling the emotion, hey, you're feeling really rejected right now, huh? But can you see how so-and-so is still snuggling you? They seem pretty into you still, you know? Can you see how they invited you back next week? I don't think anything's changed.
Luna, I feel like everybody needs this voice in their head.
Yeah, I wish this voice was in my head all the time too.
True. For anybody who's struggling with boundaries but doesn't know where to start, what advice would you give them?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm also very, very in the early stages of my own journey. I wonder if it's two things. The first thing is having people around you and talking to them about how they set boundaries. Like I've talked to you quite a bit about setting boundaries.
We have.
And actually making it explicit. It's like almost like a dummy's guide, right? You're actually like, hey, what is step 1? What is step 2? And it's going to feel dumb at times. And you're going to have I felt like I had pretty dumb questions.
But those are not dumb questions. Those are actually really important questions. And if you don't ask them, how are you going to know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, oh, so after you said that, what did you say next? It starts from something like that because boundary setting is, like you say, not a script, but it's nice to have something that you can start off with. And it also gives you, like us talking today, it gives you insight into, oh, well, that person seemed like they have everything together, but their internal experience is not that different to everything I'm feeling right now that's putting me off putting boundaries. So I would say for me, that's probably where it started, is finding models of behavior and talking to them. And when this person did this, what did you do next? And it takes away that fear of the unpredictable because it gives you some scenarios that you can become comfortable with in your head.
That's true. But also people are unpredictable.
Absolutely. And so maybe that for me, the second one would be become really aware of what kind of expectations I have walking into this exercise and practice. And the more I'm aware of, like, oh, I'm walking into this with the expectation they're going to react in this way. And that way I can adjust my expectation and also know what I need to provide for myself to ensure that I go through with it, or afterwards, what care do I need?
Yeah, that's a very good point. that you do need care afterwards. Even if, you've done the thing, it doesn't actually end there.
Oh, no, it was a start, right?
Yep.
You've kind of poked the bear now. And you need some people around you to ensure you don't get eaten by the bear.
Yep, the bear is awake now.
Yeah, the bear is awake.
Yep. Get some people to protect you.
Yeah, get the pitchforks out.
Some warriors by your side. Become one of the warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
Such a pleasure. Hopefully we'll have you again.
Looking forward to it. What a journey.
I know. And it's only been an hour.
I know. These are things that I probably live through quite often, but you don't really think about. If you don't articulate it, I don't think it feels very real.
But we do live through it, and it does have an impact on us and our body. And yeah, I think sometimes it's important to actually put it out there and release it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Until next time.
We have reached the end of our episode and hope you have enjoyed your snack as well as our conversation. If you liked our podcast, we would truly love for you to leave a comment, rate our show, and share it with anyone who would benefit from our conversations. And if you didn't like our podcast, then don't worry about it.